listening to the Jersey Guys Podcast, the show that talks about hard rock, heavy metal, AOR, and West Coast music. In-depth conversation and special guests are always on tap, so settle in and turn it up. Now, here are your hosts, Tom and Mark.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Jersey Guys Podcast. I'm Mark Ballo here with my co-host Tom Coyne, and today we've got special guest Dave Bickler, formerly of Survivor. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing good. Great to be with you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much for talking to us today. We appreciate it. So I guess we would start back in your early days. Let's go back to even before the Survivor time and talk a little bit about, how you got into music. And I know you were in a band called Jamestown Massacre, right? And that was, to me, it sounded a little bit like Chicago. I don't know if I'm right or wrong there, but
we sort of did. It was mostly a cover band, and then we started like trying to write songs, and I was just in high school, so we did make a record called Summer Sun. It wasn't a song that we wrote. We went to, it's kind of a long story how we ended up going to the studio in Detroit and then we played our stuff for these guys. They listened to the music we had and they said, they don't really hear anything. Here's a bunch of stuff we have from our staff writers. Listen to this and see what you can come up with. We found this song called Summer Sun. And so we worked up a little arrangement. We went in the studio the next day and recorded it. And it actually did get some radio play, which was great because that was my dream up to that time, was to hear something of mine on the radio.
Yeah.
But then, it kind of quickly passed away and the band, sort of broke up. But
yeah, was there just singles released with that band?
Yes, there was just a single. Yes.
Just one single. Okay.
Just one single.
Wow. So was that the first thing you ever did professionally?
Well, I'd sort of been a professional musician since I was 11 because,
wow.
We started playing. For my first gig was in the bass player's backyard. His sister had a party. She was in high school and we played. That was my first gig. And then, and we then played any gig we could get, and our parents would have to drive us, so that's how young we were.
Yeah.
And, but I was always doing that. I started, my parents told me I was singing when I was 4. They always heard me singing something. Something I hear on the radio, I'd be singing it. So after the Jamestown Massacre, I was kind of kicking around a lot. But the one other thing that happened with Jamestown Massacre is I got into doing jingles in Chicago. The bass player's father worked for J. Walter Thompson, so he said, I think you could maybe get into this jingle business, and you can make some money doing that. And so I got hooked up with this jingle producer by the name of Bobby Whiteside, and he got me in, and I started doing commercials, and it paid money, the checks would come.
Yeah.
So it was like, wow, because we'd play a gig and we'd get $15 to split. That's what we would make, our bands. Yeah.
So now is that basically where you met Jim Peterick to kind of?
I met Jim. I met Jim Peterick. I met Jim Peterick doing jingles. Yeah, in Chicago, we were doing jingles together, and he had a solo record called "Don't Fight the Feeling."
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And yeah, me too. And I actually am on there. You can't hear me, but he brought me in, and I'm singing some vocals on the end of one of his songs. But they kind of mixed it out, there. But anyway, then he said, "Hey, maybe I'd like to get you into my band, And I thought it would be a good idea, it was a big change then because it was all original music, So it was all
right.
And the Jim Peterick band, as before that, had a good reputation, so it was a step up.
Now, how long after you guys got together did the Survivor thing take off?
Well, it was like we went in the studio and we started cutting demos, and we started shopping them around, but we didn't get any bites or anybody got back to us for 5 months, and then all of a sudden the record company started popping up, and we ended up, going to audition for Scotty Brothers Records. They expressed an interest in signing us, and that was distributed by Atlantic and John Kalodner, who was the A&R guy. So we had to do one of those, you play for the record company. It's like 8 guys sitting in a chair with stone faces in front of you,
Yeah.
You're playing, and your whole life is on the line, entire career. Yeah. Apparently they liked it because they said, we'd like to sign you. So,
Okay.
so we did.
We'll talk a little bit about the debut Survivor album. It came out in 1979. And I know there was an issue, I guess, when you guys were recording, you kind of had to change producers kind of midway there. What happened there?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know exactly what happened, but there was tension between John Kalodner and Ron Nevison. Ron Nevison, is this legendary guy.
Sure.
We went and did actually before we made the album. We went to a producer's shootout. Roy Thomas Baker was there. Ron Nevison, I forget who. It was a pretty amazing and intimidating thing. But so Ron Nevison, he wanted to produce the band, so they hired him on, and they apparently he didn't like the direction it was going. So it like stopped when he was in the mixing phase, and Ron Nevison, got out, mm-hmm. and then Jim Peterick took the record by himself up to British Columbia with my mind is fuzzy. That's the
Bruce
problem.
Fairbairn, right?
Bruce Fairbairn, and Bob Rock was his assistant, by the way.
Right.
And we had no part of that. You know what I mean? They took all the tracks, so we thought it was, this much more aggressive sort of sounding album, and it ended up being a lot more. We thought, I don't know, we weren't happy. The band was not happy, and plus that's kind of a bad thing to do, to have that kind of schism like that, and suddenly it's taken away, and we have no part of it. So I was unhappy with how that turned out to be, how that album sounded. We didn't get any hits on it, so we, and then that's when Dennis Johnson and Gary Smith, who were the bass player and drummer in the band originally, also they were jingle session guys they were in Bill Chase's band. Anyway, so they're in Chicago, and that's how I met those guys, and again, doing jingles, same thing. So they decided they didn't want to go on. So we actually went out to California to record the Premonition album, and we didn't have a bass player and a drummer yet. Yeah. I said, we'll find one. So then Frankie Sullivan knew Mark Joubert. He knew him he actually was in Chicago with the I can't remember the name of the band he was playing with in Chicago, but he went back out to LA, and he said, I think Mark would be great for the band. And then we didn't have a bass player, and we went to a concert. We went someplace to see a band play, and it was, I can't make Buck Brown. I can't remember the name of the band. Anyway, Stephen was playing with the band, and we said, boy, we should get a guy like that. Said, why don't we ask him? So we did. After the show, we went and said, would you like to come down and check it out and audition? So there it was. We had a rhythm section, and we went in the studio.
A complete band ready to record album number 2, right?
Yeah, which I really liked. I mean, I thought that was a good effort. That's the Premonition album.
So, Dave, I had 2 questions for you. One of which I think you just answered. How did the original lineup, the classic original lineup, get together? And the other question was, how did the name Survivor? Who came up with that?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think I might be able to answer that one for both of you guys. I read the Jim Peterick book several years ago, and I think that there was something I think it was said, or at least he said it, that on the back cover of the Jim Peterick solo album, there was like a write-up or something that said something about how Jim Peterick was always a survivor in the music business. And I think that's how it came about.
Well, my co-host answered the question for both of us.
Yeah, you could be right. You could be right. And we did actually. I remember that being something we repeated, that we are survivors, because by that time we'd all been in the music business quite a while, and so we felt like survivors. Yeah. The original one we came up with, we wanted to have it. It was Voyager. That was our first choice. Okay. But it was taken. We had to find another one, so found Survivor.
There you go. Well,
Yes.
let's move on to album number 3, which was
Yeah.
the big album that, I mean, most people are gonna be familiar with, Eye of the
Yeah.
Tiger, 1983, or I'm sorry, 1982. That
Yeah.
comes along, and tell us a little bit about that, about the whole recording of it, the song itself, and how that became so huge.
Yeah, we had started working on some pre-production for another album, for album 3, and then out of the blue, how it came about was Tony Scotti. We were on Scotti Brothers Records at that time. They were distributed by Epic Records,
Mm-hmm.
and Tony knew Sylvester Stallone. Sylvester Stallone was sitting with Tony, and he said, "I want a rock song for the opening, fight scene in the movie. I don't want it to be." Just I love Bill Conti, but I wanted something else, and that there was a placeholder song. There always is a placeholder song,
Mm-hmm.
in film production.
Right.
It was another one, "Bites the Dust" by Queen, and I don't know if they couldn't use it or they didn't think it. He didn't think it was right, but anyway, production schedules were getting close. Deadlines are coming up, so he gave those guys, Frank and Jim, who were our songwriting team for Survivor then, videotape, a rough cut of
Mm-hmm.
the movie, and they picked out some stuff out of there, and they came up with that song. And we literally, I'd never heard it before. When we went to record it, we went to a studio in Chicago, CRC, Chicago Recording Company, and we learned it first time. We never heard it, and put down the tracks, and I sang the vocal all in one day. After never having heard it before. So
Oh wow.
that's kind of unusual, but they liked it, and in fact that demo was what ended up on the soundtrack album when they released the soundtrack. It's that version of it, which is almost identical.
So who did the? I mean, that must have been. I mean, it was such a huge song and an impact, right? That just kind of like put you guys in a whole new kind of playing field, right?
It was an explosion. I mean, it had such a perfect promotional vehicle. I don't think there's ever been a better one. And this is a time before people did that. You know what I mean? There were very few rock songs like that in the front of movies, in the body. Usually it would be around the edges of the movie.
Yeah.
They'd have at the end. So it was kind of an unusual thing. So you get the opening scene of that fight scene in the movie. It was. I went to the theater, and people stood up and clapped. Like, gee, wow.
Wow.
That song kind of, in a way, made the movie. It really did. It's like one of the few songs that have ever been done for a movie that if you took that song away from the movie, I don't think the movie would quite be what it was.
It did have an outside impact. It did.
Right.
Yeah, something about that song, and people have always asked me, did you ever imagine it would, was going to be that, big of iconic kind of thing? Of course I didn't. Nobody knew that. But I did think it had something. There was a certain swing to that song, that was very cool and sort of hypnotic. And now it just it can't be killed. Eye of the Tiger can't be killed because, it's always another, little young kids who are, their baseball team is the Tigers.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have to play Eye of the Tiger for their theme song.
That's right.
What are some of your tracks on that album that you I'm a big fan of this record. What are the tracks that you particularly like the most?
You mean on the Eye of the Tiger
Yes.
album? Oh, gee.
I'm curious if they're the same ones that I like the most.
Feels
Like Love.
Yeah, I do like Feels Like Love. That ended up being like our go-to opener song, and still to this day. When I go out and play, I always play that one first because it's just I'm gonna look it up, the album now, because so I know what I'm talking about.
That's okay. I'm doing the same thing. You're allowed to cheat.
Yeah, I'm gonna cheat, man. I'm gonna cheat because it's all blending together in my mind. So let me go back all those albums, and then Jimmy's albums too.
No, we do the same thing. Believe me. Tom's got a stack of CDs sitting here, as reference.
Here we go. Eye of the Tiger. All right. Yeah. Oh, Children of the Night. That was a good one. I liked that.
Yep, me too.
Yeah, I'm Not That Man Anymore. That was pretty cool. That was a cool song. That was something we would play, in the second spot sometimes when we play a concert.
Ever since the world began, it's a good song too.
Yeah, the one that really matters. That was cool.
Yeah, American Heartbeat was a great song.
Good record.
Yeah,
Really good
yeah,
record.
Yeah, really.
yeah. It was
It
a
gets
good record.
overshadowed by that one song. You know, so I think through the years, this record kind of gets overshadowed by that one tremendous song. But when you really delve into it, it's a very
Yeah.
solid release.
I think it was a pretty solid album, and
Yeah.
it sounded good too. It sounded real good.
It did.
They did a good job producing it.
So let's move on to album number 4, which is "Caught in the Game," and that was 1983. And I know this is a real favorite of Tom, so I know he had some questions he wanted to talk to you about.
One of my all-time favorite records, and without a doubt, in the Survivor catalog, including Jameson and yourself, this has always been my favorite record. If you could tell us a little bit about the recording process, and then I'd like to talk to you about a few songs on it.
Yeah, I liked it too. I really liked "Caught in the Game." You know, the title track. I'm trying to think of the guy who sang. We actually had some people come in and help us sing on that, and I can't remember. No, I can't remember. Jackie Don't Go. That was a good song.
Oh, Jackie Don't Go. That's a great song.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Ready for the real thing. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
It had a really big. I thought the production on this record too was even a step up from the predecessor. I always liked the sound on this a lot. It had a real big time production on it.
All of those albums were done were recorded. The first record was recorded at the record plant in Los Angeles. The other 3 were all recorded at Rumble Recorders in Canoga Park, you know, in the Valley. But it's a great studio. It was Captain and Tennille, you know, Daryl Dragon. That was his studio that he built. And, you know, state of the art, everything, great Neve console. And, you know, it was just a great place to work, a great drum room, you know, all of that.
Yeah, all the stuff that you don't seem to see around then anymore today, right?
Well, you know, it's funny because I thought for sure that the big studio with mainframe, you know, consoles was going to be dead.
Yeah.
It seemed like they were going to be gone forever, but now there's actually quite a few places that have consoles. You know, maybe they don't have the other big rooms and stuff. And the biggest difference, of course, is you know, while they might have a 2-inch machine, you know, 24 track, everybody records in digital, and it's actually, you know, it's better.
Yeah.
It's better. And there's so much better ways, easier to deal with as far as editing and all that stuff. But
so where was the band at? I'm trying to gauge in popularity by this. This is your 4th studio album. What type of venues were you guys playing, and what was the ceiling that you were looking for in terms of popularity and where the band was headed at this point, 4 records in?
Yeah, well, you know, we like we'd gone out, like in the first album, we went out and did some playing around at some college dates and stuff, and you know, we did a lot of clubs. And then when in Premonition, we did some the Agora clubs. We did a little bit of touring with that, but Eye of the Tiger was a whole different ballgame. We were out with REO Speedwagon and Kansas and Triumph in doing shows in arenas, you know, big arenas, you know, all of a sudden. So it was quite a staggering change. And so, you know, and unfortunately, the Caught in the Game album didn't sell well.
No, I know. I remember when it came out, it was, for whatever reason, it kind of over the years always had like an underground cult following, that album. I never understood why. Like the album before it was huge. The Jameson stuff took off really big. The following album with Jameson took off really huge. And this record, for some reason, didn't. And I never understood why. But it over the years, it had, like I said, had a huge cult following amongst people that are really into Survivor. But it kind of, I never understood why.
Yeah, I don't think they promoted that album right. You know, that's the vibe I got then. That we actually were going out to dinner with the record company people, and we're sitting at a table, and they're going, so when's the album release? I know it's got to be close. When's the album coming out? I said, oh, well, it came out last week. Did you know?
Wow.
That's not a good sign.
No.
And you know, and I don't know what was going on behind the scenes, you know, with all that stuff. I have no idea.
And it was odd because I remember it's going back into probably the early 90s or maybe late 80s when the the whole catalog was starting to come out on CD, they initially skipped over it. There was the first two that came out, and the third had always been on CD. And then the Jameson stuff started coming out, and it wasn't until they were all out that they eventually, one of the Japanese labels put it out on CD.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's always kind of been like a forgotten child, and for me, it's my single favorite album in the entire catalog, which is, I've always thought it was strange. But now you've kind of explained it about not being promoted properly.
And there were a couple of things that happened that may have had something to do with that. There was some contention with certain band members and our product manager. There was a little spat that went on, and I don't know if that's the case, if it's true, but you don't want to really insult this product manager. The guy, Cliff O'Sullivan, that was his name. He was a really good guy.
Yeah, you do something like that, right? And it's like they, you kind of say, okay, I'll give you.
Yeah, it could be a heavy price.
Maybe I just won't try too hard for you.
Right.
Exactly. So now, was it the beginning part of the Caught in the Game tour that you started to have the vocal problems?
No, I had started having vocal problems during when we were touring the Eye of the Tiger record.
Oh, okay.
I got a polyp on my vocal cord. It's pretty common. It's a pretty common thing with singers. And the trouble with it is that we're like in the middle, so we had to go. I went to a doctor, the laryngologist, one of those guys, and he said, you have a problem on your vocal cord. Nodules on the vocal cord can be, you can have habits, you can get rid of those without surgery, but polyps will never go away, and they have to be removed surgically. And so they did the operation. This is quite a while ago. The science was pretty primitive compared to now as far as that kind of surgery. He said you have a 20% chance that you won't be able to sing at all from the operation. Like, oh, great, okay. But I came through it okay, but I had to go right back out on the road. I had 2 weeks off after the operation, and then I was right back on the road. Yeah. And they're giving me steroids and stuff. It was tough, and there was some bad blood, over that. There was that caused trouble.
Yeah, well, I think I read in the Jim Peterick book, he kind of said something, and it was no slag on you, but he was like, after Dave had the surgery, it's like the recommended time is taking a year off from singing, and it was a year that we didn't really have, because I guess you were trying to follow up this huge Eye of the Tiger album, right? And it's an unfortunate situation.
It's an unfortunate situation because there was no choice. Yeah. And I was on board with that, but yeah, you're right. You should take some extended period of time off after an operation like that and slowly work your way back up to, your full deal. Yeah. So now, I was on voice rest too. I had to. This was really difficult. I got to tell you, like a concert, right? There's, especially there's a big room, big, arena and stuff. There's all these people there, and people want to talk to you, but you can't talk to them. I had to write stuff down on a notepad, and boy, do you find out real quick how great talking is. What a gift the English or any language is to convey information, because you have to parse it down to something, something real simple to answer a question. Wow. It was a bitch.
So now you had to step away from the band. Obviously, everybody knows that. There was about a 10-year hiatus or so, and you came back. There was a best of or a greatest hits album that got released, which I think had a couple new songs on it, right? And I think you actually co-wrote one of them, didn't you?
Yeah, Hunger Years. Yeah, and there was a song called "You Know Who You Are," which was a really cool harmony, sort of showcasing our harmonies, which were actually quite really good. Between myself and Jim Peterick and Frank Sullivan, it was really a good blend. Yeah, and
Now, it was the first time you actually had a co-write within the Survivor camp, right?
Yeah.
So it took all that time and it could be a greatest hits album.
Well, they didn't want to share that. They did not want to share that.
So then you started working on new material at that point, but it kind of never got off the ground. Is that correct to say?
Yeah. I mean, I had a band called Radio City, which we were sure we'd have to change the name, in Chicago. A really good band, and we made a bunch of recordings and put a lot into it. We couldn't get arrested. We tried to shop it, and nobody was interested in it. But I thought it was really actually quite good.
What did it sound like?
Oh, it was I don't know, kind of a fusiony pop sort of thing, a little bit. That's kind of what it was. pop rock kind of fusion sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was a cool band.
Yeah. So you said nothing really came from that. And then
Nothing did. No.
Yeah. Now at that point were you starting to write new material for a new Survivor? Was there new material being written for a new Survivor album at that point?
There was quite a bit of stuff that didn't get released that we recorded. Some of it's out on the out in the world on the internet and stuff like Fire Makes Steel and I'm trying to think of what else we did a bunch of stuff. We spent a lot of time in the studio recording stuff during the 1993 to 99 era when I was back in Survivor. But again, none of that really saw the light of day either.
I think I saw you guys in 1999, possibly in Staten Island, New York.
Oh yeah, Staten Island, New York. Yeah.
So I think I saw a show there, and I think Greg Kinn opened up, if I'm not mistaken.
That is true. You're right.
You remember that?
I sure do. I sure do. I do.
So
yeah,
then,
Greg Kinn.
So then you said basically, so nothing really happened at that point, and then I guess kind of you were back out again from the band.
Yeah, I was out. Well, yeah, I got fired. The thing about it is that a decision was made to bring Jimmy back in, and actually I thought at that time sort of that made a lot of sense for Survivor because his stuff was current. I don't know. The best thing would have been have us both sing together, but that did happen eventually.
Yeah, many years later, it eventually did.
Many years later.
Yeah. We'll touch on that a little bit. When you, it was 2013, I guess, right? That you came back and Jimmy came back in the fold, and you guys were both playing and touring together. How did that all come about?
It was just Frankie got in touch with me and he said, now before you say anything, just hold on. Let me tell you what I'm thinking about. And by that time I got to know Jimmy very well. We had done some shows together with Jim Peterick actually in Chicago. His what's the name of that thing he had?
World Stage.
World Stage. Thank you. I was like, and my mind is a little full of cotton here. But yeah, the World Stage shows, and they were very good. He had a very good band, and we sang together, so we got to know each other. So Jimmy was just a lovely guy. He was just sweet, really, really funny, great artist. I mean, just a towering, singer.
I've met Jimmy a couple times over the years. Great guy.
Yeah, great guy. I was really shocked. We're just shocked when he passed away.
I wanted to ask you, Dave, just as myself as a fan, especially of the third and the fourth record, as much as I had indicated to you, did you sometimes feel that you were, I know as a fan, I felt like I was deprived of the band growing with you as opposed to Jameson, who I like a lot, a big fan, and nothing against his records. I thought all the Survivor stuff, his solo stuff was great, but I was such a big fan of the fourth record of Survivor with you. I always felt kind of deprived that you didn't do that fifth or sixth or seventh record. Is that something that you carried around with you, or is it you just kind of cut, ties emotionally and mentally with them?
I do. I am sorry that I didn't get to do another record with Survivor at least. But, it was so tense then, it was just really tense. And so when I left then, it was the right thing to do right then.
Gotcha.
So now let's kind of come up to the more current times. Obviously, your tenure in Survivor ended around 2016, but I believe, and tell me if I'm right and talk about this a little bit, but I think you started writing songs for yourself back around maybe 2009 or so. Is that correct?
No, all the way back to 1984.
Wow.
I was, I got my first little home studio thing, and I was writing songs and some of that stuff, still, I've got all that. I've got all those tapes and stuff, and some of those survived into the future. Those songs. Now that I am better equipped to make them come alive,
So you have a stockpile.
I have a stockpile of, huge stockpile of stuff. Yeah. If I ever get writer's block, which I do, I just go and listen to something from, I got all these files,
Put them out. There's a fan base out there that wants to hear from you. Your solo record I thought was terrific, and what you got, we'd love to hear it all.
Yeah, no, I was very pleased with the Darklight, how that turned out. That was great. I found somebody great to work with here in New York. Stephen Diacutis, Soundspot Productions. Somebody else turned me on to Stevie, and I, went in there, and he is just what I needed. Somebody really could get things straightened out and get everything in line. So it was really.
Yeah. We'll go back to prior to that, because I had said a minute ago that I think it was around 2009 that you started putting ideas together for a solo album. Is that correct? And how did that all kind of come about?
Well, the first thing I did was, how do I make a record? I don't have a band. How am I going to make a record? And I had a friend over at Sony, Jeremy Holiday, and he said, I said the first thing I need is a drummer, because that's the first thing you need. You need a great drum track, and then you can build on top of that. If you don't have a band in the room, you can build on top of that. Mm-hmm. So he said, well, this guy Ryan Hoyle. He's out in California, but he's got a drum studio, and he was with Collective Soul, and he toured with Paul Rogers, and so I got on the phone with Ryan Hoyle and said, well, I'm coming out. So I went out there, and we got drum tracks, and that's the tracks you hear on Darklight.
So it took you kind of was obviously you were back in Survivor for several years, but from that 2009 up till the release of Darklight in 2019, that was a long process that you spent, writing and getting this album together, right?
Too long. Way too long.
And how did you hook up with, you said Steve Diacutis, who is an East Coast guy, a Jersey guy, and I know him well.
Yeah, he's a Jersey guy. Yeah, for sure, to the core. And Adam Small, I think it's Adam Small he's a bass player, recordist, has a website thing, and he had like a kind of a music consultant sort of business going. And he turned me on to Stevie. He said, if you want to get great results without downtown prices, you should check out Stevie, because it's not downtown New York. Yeah. And I went in with Steve. We hit it off, immediately. Had so much fun doing that.
So you went from the West Coast to the East Coast now.
whatever works.
And talk about. I know Steve Diacutis, obviously being a Jersey guy, and me being a Jersey guy my whole life, and I know a lot of the projects he's been involved in. I know some of his own material. Great solo album he put out a few years ago with Corey Glover.
With Corey Glover, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I actually saw them play live.
I did too. It was fantastic.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I did. It was fantastic.
He's an amazingly talented guy, from producing to songwriting to guitar playing and everything. So I guess that was kind of the thing that you needed, right, to kind of get this to completion, the Darklight album.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly what I needed. I needed somebody to help me pull it all together, and he did. Yeah, as you said, he's a great guitar player too. So we have some of the things, guitars I played stayed, and then he also added a lot of stuff, that was just, another head, another idea. And,
let's talk about some of the songs on Darklight. What are some of the songs that maybe the older songs that you wrote, 10 plus years ago? Was there stuff maybe going back further than that? What are some of the songs you take away from being your favorites?
I think Hope is great. It's sort of a universe. It actually was something that I wrote when I was in New York, living in New York City after 9/11. It was sort of my 9/11, song. But it turns out that it kind of has legs as a sort of universal, for talking about hope and all of that stuff. That was it was lying around for quite a while, and then other stuff was that was on Darklight was right up to the end was new stuff. So it was kind of a combination of all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And that song Kaleidoscope, which is the second song on the record, that's something that's back from the 90s. I had that track again. Like I said, I go back and listen. Oh, that sounds cool. Maybe I could go revisit that.
I thought this was a very strong album. All the anticipation I had heard about it when I heard it, I was very, very pleased with it. I thought it was terrific. And again, hope to hear more in the future. Oh, yeah, no, it's coming up. I'm working on it. Great. As we speak.
Oh, good. We'll talk like some of the songs. I listened to the album, in preparing for this interview, and I kind of revisited it again. And songs like Magic, what can you tell me about that? I thought it was a great song.
Yeah, that actually is a pretty old song. That's from back in 1996, 97, sometime when I first got the idea for that, and it was a song about my then girlfriend, now my wife, and the Kaleidoscope. Actually, my wife wrote those lyrics. Kind of, it was something like a kind of a poem thing, and I sort of knocked it together, and turned it into a song. But no, that one goes back to that era too, as far as the original idea.
How about the song "Always You"? I know Steve DeCoutis kind of did a co-write on that, I believe, right?
Yeah. He came up with a good bridge.
That's a great song. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the way it turned out. It just it's rock and roll, man.
Well, and then how about songs like "The Sky Is Falling"? I thought had really killer guitar work on it. A little bit of keyboards in there too, right?
Yeah. And me playing the keyboards and Stevie doing all the guitar work on that.
Now you actually played keyboards on the first Survivor album, right?
I did. I played the synth, because I can't get you off that thing,
How about "Fear of the Dark"? That's another great song with
Fear of the Dark. Yeah,
killer guitar work on that one.
Yeah, Stevie went all in on that because the basic song was there, but came up with that whole intro section. That it was. I can't even remember what it was before, but it was a great idea. what he did with it, and we worked really hard on it to that was sort of the ultimate album cut for Darklight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's definitely a highlight for sure. I mean, I go back to that and I listen to it, and you get to the end and the guitars are just going off. It's a great song.
That's probably my favorite song on the album, I think.
No, it's my wife's favorite too.
Oh yeah. Oh cool. So now you did mention that you said there is more in the works. What's currently going on?
Oh yeah, no, we're working on it. We've got like 3 songs pretty much completed, and a couple that are well along, and so we're just moving ahead.
Is this where you're working with Stevie DeCoutis again?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yes, and I'm trying to. I mean, it's the record company said that maybe it would be a good idea to put out an EP, and we could put it on make an album, but release 3 songs, first. So I'm toying around with that idea.
Now, are you speaking of Deco Music?
Yes, speaking of Deco Music.
How did you hook up with Charlie and Deco Music? Because Charlie's an old friend of mine.
Yeah, Charlie was at Stevie's.
That's right.
And I came in one day and just said, "Hey, Charlie's here," and I talked to Charlie for a long time, and it was, a sweet guy, and so yeah, we hooked up, and Deco Records has come, done a lot. They've really expanded their footprint.
Yeah,
for sure.
Now they've been releasing a lot of good stuff, so I'm glad to see that you're with them, and hopefully,
me too.
Hopefully, that's a good relationship there between you guys.
Absolutely. Charlie's wonderful. He's a wonderful guy.
We've had him on as a guest. He was actually one of our earlier guests when we got the podcast off the ground.
I'm sure he was interesting.
He was.
Can I go back and listen to it?
Oh yeah, they're all on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. They're all
okay,
up
great.
there.
I'll go back and find it.
Yeah.
Charlie Calv, Shotgun Symphony Angel episode.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Great. So, anything else you have going on currently, or just kind of working on the new solo?
Yeah,
songs?
I'm just that's what I'm working on now. I mean, I do some shows here and there. I go out and play some gigs. Yeah, but first and foremost is trying to improve my production at home. I've learned a lot. In fact, I learned an awful lot from Stevie. He really taught me a lot about production and digital audio workstation and all that stuff, and help me to get a better workflow so we can partner better. I bring stuff over to him and it's in real good shape.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Unfortunately, I think because of the whole pandemic the last couple of years, right? I mean, your album Darklight came out in 2019 and it probably didn't really get a fair shake because of everything that went on. The world kind of stopped, right?
Yeah, I don't know what to say, but sure. I mean, The world did stop. The world definitely did stop. That's the truth.
Well, hopefully, anything new you're going to put out, it's going to hopefully get a little more of a light shed upon it. That's for sure.
Yeah, we'll try to do it right. We'll try to do it right this time.
Great. All right. Well, I guess, is there anything else, Tom, that you wanted to touch on?
No, I'm good.
Good. Well, Dave, we really appreciate the time. I know you're a little bit under the weather, and we appreciate you soldiering through on this one.
Sorry for and because you're mine, I walk the line. I could I could never sing that normally. I can't. That's like the 3 more notes on the bottom of my voice that I don't have.
Hurry up, go record it.
You got it right now, though. Now you gotta grasp the moment.
I actually did one time before when I had a cold. I recorded something with my cold voice.
Well, all right. Well, I appreciate it. Go get some rest and appreciate the talk. And I know, I think you got a birthday coming up at the end of the month, so we'll wish you a happy birthday in advance.
Well, yeah, that's true. Thanks, guys.
Happy early birthday, Dave. Thanks for coming on.
Hopefully you'll have me again sometime too.
When that new record comes out, we'll have you back.
Definitely.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Definitely appreciate it, Dave.
Take care, brother.
Okay, take care, guys.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Looks sidelong, her eyes cast down. Never know what's on her mind. She touched my hand like only she can. It's so surprising every time. Oh, and a smile takes me from this world, and her eyes touch my sailing, shining from within, draws me on. She dances her dance like only she can, and only she knows when it's time.
Hey, everybody. This is Mark from the Jersey Guys podcast. We're doing a little wrap-up show, and we just had Dave Bickler, formerly of Survivor. And how do you think that one went, Tom?
I thought it went really good. I was very happy that Dave was able to come on. I know he wasn't feeling 100%, but it went really good. And for me, I was always wanted to talk to Dave because I was very fond of some of the albums that he was on. And I always felt that I would have loved to have seen him record more with Survivor. And we touched on all of that, and I thought it went terrific. I hope everybody else thinks the same.
Yeah, no, I actually enjoyed it myself too. Dave's a great guy, and I know I really loved his solo album from 2019. I think we both did, so it was kind of good to talk to him a little bit about that and some of the songs off that album. And yeah, so I think it was pretty good. We hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you guys back again soon with a brand new episode.